Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Poker Face. Blanket on the show. Poker Face, Season 1, Episode 5. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, this case mainly taking place entirely at a retirement assisted living facility, which this might be one of the few cases that have fully taken place in one single one. I was like, no, because technically they went to the zoo. I was about to say. It's like, I mean, but for the most part, they like, it's in one place, but it's like maybe 2 or 3 different locations. Once again, last episode was the episode that moved around the most. But either way, tensions and all that aside, we got introduced to Joyce and Irene, which is so interesting because both of them have, I wonder have they ever been on Law and Order at the same time, because I know they were both on Law and Order at the same time. Like the actress who plays Joyce, I always blank on her name, but like Judith Light, I distinctly remember from Law and Order, but like she was like a judge in some Law and Orders. I think maybe all of them, but definitely like SVU. But I know the actress who plays Joyce, like that was probably like the thing I probably know her best from is the OG Law and Order she was on for a long time. But either way, they seem like kind of like the crazy wild kids at the assisted living home, and they kind of give a lot of people crap. They're crapping on the Fletchers who like to watch their crime shows. They treat Billy kind of with some disrespect. It's like, oh, like did you remember to charge our heart monitors? Oh, did you remember to take my foot out of your butt? I censored myself there on purpose this early in the recording. But yeah, they just seem like the wild kids and stuff like that. And once again, the thing is always, what's going to be Charlie's entry point? And I think it's such an interesting twist, making it so that typically, with the exception of episode 2, Charlie is associated with the victims. But now it's like, oh, in this particular case, she technically interacted. This is actually, it's funny because her level of interaction with the victim in this episode, Ben, was the same as like kind of almost the same exchange like she had with Damien, where it's like, yeah, the dude made me a sandwich and that was about it. But yeah, like she got closer to the killers in this particular case, which was really, I was like, oh, that's an interesting development, because they're like, once again, they're like the rebels and they seem like cool older ladies, and like they just like mesh nicely with Charlie's vibe. But either way, they immediately recognize the guy Ben, and they're like, oh, we got to kill him. So it's not till, I mean, crazy plan. They ended up making a concoction. Irene climbed up some vines outside of the bathroom window, climbed up to his room, injected him, switched out the heart monitor thing with her own, and so they wouldn't know that he had died. Then ended up climbing back down, acting like she was in the bathroom the entire time. Waited till they went on to their trip, had her get electrocuted, like shocking herself with a taser, so it looked like he died when he died, so they can change the time of death, which is like, from a crime drama murder mystery perspective, screwing with the time of death is always an interesting wrinkle in any case. It's always like, ooh, we're getting like, I don't know, this is one of, like, it's one of those cliche things of like messing with the time of murder. It's like a locker room murder mystery. You're like, ooh, how did they accomplish it? It's like one of those things where it's like, it's been done a lot, but it's still like one of those, ooh, messing with the time of death is always interesting. But yeah, they kind of got away with it. You're like, oh, like, is there anything that's really gonna, it seems like they handled it pretty well. They got rid of the concoction. They got disposed of like the needle they injected him with. They switched Irene's band back with her own and put Ben's on the thing. So I was like, interesting. So I was like, how would this necessarily tie back to them? We'll have to wait to see. But I mean, obviously at the time you had to wait to see. But like I said, getting to see Charlie work there and getting close to them, because it's like, yeah, they're wild kids. They're getting high. They've got very storied histories. They actually went to prison because they were kind of initially you're kind of like, oh, they're kind of freedom fighters, they're fighting against corruption and stuff, and they seem cool and legit, and you find out later on it's like, well, you're domestic terrorist. But that line between being kind of a freedom fighter and domestic terrorist and all that, like it's a perspective thing. There's not much nuance to it later on where you're like, oh, that's just fucked. But we'll get to them when we get there. And so Charlie really kind of latched onto them, and they talk about the guy that they both were in love with. They had a kind of a little menage a trois with, named Gabriel. but then like the police raided them. And it's actually really fucked because it was like the FBI or maybe just, yeah, I think it was like the FBI or whatever raided them and ended up shooting Irene in the back because she was trying to run to go try and find Gabriel because they don't know what happened to Gabriel. The moment they're like, yeah, we never found his body or never found out what happened to him, I was like, Ben is Gabriel, which I was right, but I was wrong. Like I was, for whatever reason, I was thinking like, oh, they killed Ben thinking it was Ben, but in actuality, he was Gabriel and they kind of killed the guy that they loved and that'd be a sad twist to the episode. It's like, no, because I guess in my head I was like, well, maybe they misidentified him, but it's like, well, Gabriel, it's like he meant so much to them, so of course they would be able to immediately recognize him. So I don't, because even Irene was like, oh my God, I saw your eyes and I knew it was you. I was like, interesting. But then the fact is he was there, he was kind of acting a little cagey, wanted to like, he's like, oh, if I was hoping if I could run into you guys, I was like, either, my immediate thought was, is he an undercover cop? But then the way he got out, I was like, he's got to be like an undercover cop, right? But then they show him getting in the back of the vehicle. I'm like, oh, witness protection. He was an informant. He sold you guys out. And then they're both sitting there like, wait, what? We mourned you like, this entire time. Wait, we went to jail for 30 years because of you. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. It's so interesting because they're like, don't worry, Gabriel. We forgive you, which is funny because they literally had a conversation a couple of scenes earlier with Charlie where they literally said, we do not forgive. Because she's like, oh, all the crazy stuff you guys went through, forgive and forget. They're like, no, we never forgive. So, and that's when they decided they were going to kill him. Which you kind of feel bad, but even at the same time, Ben's, and I think this should have been a key factor and should have been something of note, he immediately didn't, he felt bad of what he did destroying his family. Like, it's sad that people died, but it's also, and, obviously Irene got paralyzed, but it's like, I still believe I did the right thing all these years later. And he talked about the dream he had, like, he was chasing after them, trying to tell them the truth about everything, but, asking for their forgiveness, but they never turn around. So he's like, I knew that I would never, be able to kind of, quiet that in my soul if I never came to you guys and apologized. And it's like, probably would have been better off living the rest of your life never telling them the truth because it would have protected your identity. You wouldn't be dead right now. But it's like he felt so guilty about it because he was in a relationship. He cared about them, but he was like, yo, I had to stop you guys because it was the right thing to do. So, and then we find out his quote unquote nephew is what's his character's name? Howard from Big Bang Theory is kind of the thing I'm best known for. The actor's name is like Simon, is it Helberg or something like that? I wasn't expecting to be like, oh, he's an FBI agent. He's like on the lower end of the FBI agent. He's like, oh, I thought I'd be stopping terrorists and stuff like that. But no, I'm here, babysitting as like a witness protection agent. But then it's like, oh, like, because I thought it was interesting because Charlie goes to Ben's funeral because she was like, I interacted with the guy. He was sad. He kind of had no one. So I feel like I should kind of be here for him, especially knowing like, oh, your nephew wasn't really your nephew because you didn't say like, oh my God, I at least have my nephew. He literally said there's no one. So it's like, and I even love like Luca trying to hug him. It's like, motherfucker, like you don't have to try and sell this. You attempting to sell this makes this even more awkward. You're my handler. Like, don't try to pretend to be my nephew. Like, you can pretend to be my nephew. Don't try to lean into character and try to hug me. In retrospect, now knowing he's an FBI agent makes that whole situation even funnier. Yeah, but the whole thing, finding out, oh my God, this was Gabriel, and the album that, it was like a band's album they were on the front of, Irene, Gabriel, and Joyce, and ultimately, that is like, wait, Irene and Joyce are at this retirement home, so brings in the feds to arrest them. So ironically enough, Charlie kind of accidentally ratted out, but it's like she didn't give him any information because she didn't know anything other than, hey, Irene and Joyce are here. But obviously for Luca, like that meant something, so they got questioned. And so she's kind of in disbelief. It's like, yo, those guys are freedom fighters. They're fighting against the men. They're not murderers. And then he had to tell her, like, Luca was like, you know what they went to jail for? He was like, oh yeah, they were going to do some protest thing. It's like, no, they were going to blow up the Model UN. And she's like, what's that mean? He's like, they were going to blow up high schoolers. And she's like, is that better or worse than them just blowing up the UN? It's like, much much worse, because their justification later is, oh, we were going to attack like the fascist, corrupt people, the terrible people. We were taking, like, rather than going after them, we were going to target their children, because it's the thought process is, oh, we're eliminating the next generation who would fill that void that their parents were. So it's almost like knocking out the next generation, but also making a statement and point. I'm like, well, for one, it sucks that you shouldn't murder anyone just to make a statement or point. So even killing the parents would have sucked. It's extra evil killing teenagers, high schoolers. Like, I'm not saying I agree with it. I understand. I can see why they believe that was the right thing to do. Why targeting the children seemed like the right thing to do. I do not believe that to be the case. I don't think even targeting the parents would have been the right thing to do. Didn't have, I think you could have gone about that in a more non-violent way, but like using pressure cookers, you were going to basically blow up these kids. Because like there was like at least the ones they were making, there were nails in that there was going to be shrapnel, like pretty bad shrapnel. You're going to do that to high school kids. That's super fucked. And they're trying to say like, oh, it's a different time. Once again, it's so sad because Charlie was in such disbelief because she liked these people, but then obviously they turned on a dime the moment they were like, wait, are you a rat, Charlie? We don't like pigs and we don't like rats. And it's like, ooh. And now they're looking at Charlie like, oh, you're trying to get answers out of us. Are you wearing a wire, Charlie? And she's like, just stop staring at my tits. But it's like, for her to hear their justification, she's like, I thought you guys fought against the assholes. Now I realize you are the assholes. It's like, yeah, they're not. But I mean, that's any person who like believes himself to be, you can have a lofty goal and just kind of skew so far down the wrong path, still believing yourself to be fighters of justice. But it's like killing high school kids, no matter what their family situation is. Like, should children suffer at the hands suffer because of the sins of their fathers, type of thing. It's like, that's not fair. That's not justice. Once again, targeting anyone like that, because you could also kill so many innocent people. Like, even if you were going after the parent, once again, that's why I'm like, killing anyone to send a message and get your point across. I think it defeats the whole purpose, because it just makes you seem like, once again, it's all about perspective. That's just how I kind of view that situation. But I just don't know the right circumstances to be like, no, this will be a situation where I'd probably side on that other side of that argument. But at least with this situation, I'd side with the whole, killing anyone thing, especially not killing high school kids. So now Charlie is actively working with Luca, being like, yeah, you were kind of right about that. And I love the entire time she's talking to Luca. Like, I don't know if that was a guy that's going into witness protection. I guess that was the whole point of it. But he's overhearing this entire conversation. Because initially she went to, because it's like none of the timetable and anything like that, like lined up. So she ended up going to the Fletchers. I was like, you guys watch enough murder mysteries. How could you make this happen? And they ultimately gave them the suggestion while they're watching. So, and I love one of them was like, oh my God, is that a Skarsgård? And someone else was like, you always think it's a Skarsgård. Which, to be fair, that person, Wolfen, I was like, looked a lot like a Skarsgård. And then we find out he is. I wonder, was that one of the Skarsgårds actually just playing a different role or whatever? I'm not well versed in all the Skarsgårds. I think there's at least, 4 of them are actors. I don't know the full family. Like the one because there's a brother I'm not familiar with that I just looked up. But the ones I'm most familiar with is Stellan, Alexander, and Bill. I think Alexander's the first Skarsgård I saw, and that was him as Eric in True Blood. And then probably after that would be Stellan in the Thor movies and Avengers. He was the professor that Darcy and Jane worked with. And then finally, Bill, first thing I ever saw him, was a Netflix original show called Hemlock Grove, which you cannot watch on Netflix anymore because it's no longer up there. I want to say that it's either late last year or late 2023. I want to say late, it might have been last year, but it might have been late 2023. They removed it. So just kind of interesting. So yeah. Kind of went on a Skarsgård tangent like that, but I just thought that was interesting because that's kind of the point where it's just kind of like, oh, is that a Skarsgård? It looks like a Skarsgård. Oh, it is a Skarsgård. But yeah, she ended up figuring out the means in which they did it, slowly pieced it together. Once again, the little things, Charlie always says, people lie about the stupidest things. She knew they were lying about, oh my God, Irene's in here with diarrhea. It's like, oh, they're bullshitting. bullshitting about shitting, but she was like, you guys do your own thing, because she was like, rock on, because you guys are rebels, you can lie to them, that's perfectly fine. And then when they were like, oh, we got allergies, so we're not going to do like the monkey, like chimpanzee thing, and she's like, oh, I get it, you guys are going to go off, get high, cool beans. And so she ended up piecing it all like together, the means in which they did it, well, like, Irene did it and stuff. She even went to the gardener, who had said like, oh yeah, like I gave her some of this for like her weed, and then like Wednesday, which I think was probably the time of the murder, ended up being the day of the murder, ended up like giving them like a whole bunch more. So once again, it's a plausible situation, but there's no hard evidence to fully get the feds involved. So she ended up asking Billy for the information. He was initially like, oh, it's a HIPAA violation. So, but he caved so easily. She's like, come on. And he's like, all right, fine. I'm like, why did you cave so easily? It literally took you 5 seconds to be like, all right, never mind. I guess he's just kind of like, well, it's fine because the person's dead, so it doesn't really matter. It's like, you seem like you're trying to be on top of things. You're trying to be responsible. And then you just did it. I mean, once again, it's for the purposes of the show. Like, well, we gotta make progress here. Well, we can't like get too hung up on this, but it's still like, oh man, that you brought up the whole HIPAA thing and then you immediately did that. I was like, okay, Billy, whatever. I also love that Pervy Pete came into play, um, which was so interesting because he's the one that explained, what was it, electroplay, which I'd never heard that term before. But it's like, yeah, it's not for like the faint of heart. You got to be like a taser or something. Because Betty was saying like, oh my God, Joyce and Irene were hitting each other with an electric dildo, is what she was overlooking, because she was suspicious of them. So like, Charlie remembered Betty bringing that up to Luca, but now she questioned her even more about it. And then she's like, yeah, I told Joyce and Irene that I would bring this up. It's like, wait, you told him that? Yeah, like told him like an hour ago. And then they pressure cookered her and exploded. I was like, that's sad. You feel bad for Betty, because Betty was kind of like, a by the books person. She was right to kind of like frown upon Irene and Joyce, but she was a stick in the mud, but it's still like, hey, she didn't deserve that. It's the first time that's happened in the show. Well, I was about to say, well, the exception of episode 1. I was about to say, like, us having multiple victims. This is like outside of episode 1, this is the first other episode to have like multiple people deaths. So, I mean, to be fair, they were also aiming for Charlie too, which we'll get to that. So, but once again, no concrete evidence. So Charlie puts herself in the target view, because I thought she was gonna like, I thought that was going to be her play, where it's like they attempt to murder her and then she busts them, which ends up being a long and short of it. But yeah, like they straight up did not hesitate to try and kill her. Bashed her in the head with a bedpan, then tried to choke her out. And then she didn't want to fight ladies. She's like, I don't want to fight any old ladies. Then kind of got walloped in the face a couple times. Had to fight back. Got stabbed in the leg. And she's just like, what the fuck? Then like had to spray. I was about to say, I don't think it was it talcum powder? It was something that she sprayed in like Irene's face. And it's just like, oh boy. Like, and she was reaching for the taser, and I'm like, how's this all going to play out? And then I was like, are you going to tase him? But then she's got the taser, and I was like, it's probably super deadly for either one of you to get tased. I mean, it was already, well, we saw Irene survive one tasing, so I guess it's fine, but still, probably don't want to chance your luck again. But then she tases herself. I'm like, what the fuck was the purpose of that? And I was like, are you going to like add that to like the whole attempted murder? I mean, because they have murdered 2 people, and now they've attempted to murder you. So I was like, were you going to frame them for your particular murder? Like, how was this one? But it's like, right, she's wearing one of those health monitors, and the police come in and arrest them. So it's like, cool. Took them down. I even love Luca being like, yo, you ever want to join the FBI? It's like, even though she's not the biggest fan of cops, she has been doing a lot of cop-related stuff by solving a whole bunch of murders. I also love the callback to episode 1. She's like, yo, did you get my email about the whole Kane situation? And he was like, what situation? He's like, the one I sent to FBI at gov or .gov. And he was like, I have no idea what that's about. So I'm wondering, like, because now that makes you almost wonder, like, how much of that did actually go through. Like, Sterling was dead, but his father could have shut that down. That cop seemed like he was going to do his job, but I mean, once again, Sterling's dad runs that town, so I guess no one, not even Oprah or the CIA, got that. I guess that's what that's kind of implying, but the fact that they brought that up makes you feel like, well, it's got to be plot relevant for a later part of the season, so maybe Papa Sterling is going to pop up. Heard the voice, but maybe you'll see him pop up in person. Probably I can assume in the season finale, maybe, but. And then the final FU was Charlie cranking up the little golf cart thing, and then it almost explodes with her in it, and just Irene and Joyce looking back at her. It's like, oh, one last middle finger. Because they had that set up for a long time, because the moment Charlie confronted him initially and she left, they were like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And it's like, yeah. But then immediately they moved on to Betty. It's like, oh, they'd set up that Charlie thing a while back. She just hadn't gotten into the cart yet to do that. And I almost wonder, like, it seems like there was electric shock that kind of gave her some warning. I think it's because if she hadn't, like, it's because luckily she tased herself and there was a little electric charge in her that kind of sparked, like, whoa, what? I mean, maybe it's just like it gave her enough time to. It's probably the same like devising that they use for the cooker, so like she was able to. Maybe that's all she needed, enough time to get out of it. But I also wonder, did the whole like some electric charge from the taser like save her in that regard? But yeah, pretty close situation at the end. It's like not only did they attempt. Does that count as an extra charge of attempted murder, considering they tried to kill you twice? So that's 2 murders and 2 attempts at attempted murder? Or would that only count as a separate charge if it was a separate person they were trying to attempt to murder? I don't know. Either way, wild situations. To be fair, you always hear the thing about how wild like retirement homes and stuff get with like rampant like sexually transmitted diseases and stuff like that. I mean, hell, they even had some people be like, oh, this person had gonorrhea, this person has chlamydia. Well, funny enough, the person that named chlamydia something is actually the one with gonorrhea. Either way, crazy times at a retirement or assisted living home. I'm excited to see what the next episode, the next mystery has in store for us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.